On February 15, 1564, Galileo Galilei was born in Pisa. When he was born there was no such thing as science, yet by the time he died, science was well on its way to becoming a discipline, and its concepts and method a complete philosophical system. Galileo's father Vincenzo, though of noble heritage, was a semi-itinerant court musician and composer of modest means, who also authored treatises on music theory. His mother, Giulia Ammannati, descended from Pisan cloth merchants. In 1572, they resettled the family in Florence. As a boy, Galileo was tutored privately and, for a time, by the monks at Vallombrosa, where he considered a religious vocation and may have started a novitiate. He returned home, however, and then enrolled for a medical degree at the University of Pisa in 1580. He never completed this degree, but instead studied mathematics, notably with Ostilio Ricci, a mathematics teacher attached to the Tuscan court and the Florentine Accademia del Disegno. After leaving university, Galileo worked as a private mathematics tutor around Florence and Siena and cultivated the support of leading mathematicians. He visited Christoph Clavius, professor at the Jesuit Collegio Romano, and corresponded with the engineer Gildobaldo del Monte, Marchese of Urbino. In 1588, he applied and was turned down for a professorship in Bologna, but a year later, with the help of Clavius and del Monte, he was appointed lecturer in mathematics at Pisa. In 1592, he obtained, at a much higher salary, a chair of mathematics at the University of Padua, in the Venetian Republic. Galileo also supplemented his income by producing a calculating instrument of his own design and other devices in a household workshop, and by private tutoring and consulting on practical mathematics and engineering. During this period, he began a relationship with Marina Gamba, and their daughter Virginia was born in 1600. In 1601, they had another daughter, Livia, and a son, Vincenzo, in 1606. In Padua, Galileo worked out much of the mechanics he would publish later in life, and which constitute his primary lasting contribution to physical science. However, these projects were interrupted in 1609, when Galileo heard about the recently invented spyglass, invented an improved telescope, and used it to make astounding celestial discoveries. He rushed these into print in Sidereus Nuncius, which appeared in March 1610 and launched Galileo onto the world stage. Among others, Johannes Kepler, imperial mathematician at Prague, lauded the work. Clavius and his colleagues at the Collegio Romano confirmed its results and threw a celebratory banquet when Galileo visited in 1611. During the same Roman sojourn, Galileo was admitted to what was perhaps the first scientific society, the Accademia dei Lincei. He would style himself Lynchian academician for the rest of his life. Some fascinating treatments of this period of Galileo's life and motivations have recently appeared. Galileo also used the starry messenger to solicit patronage in his native Tuscany, naming the moons of Jupiter he had found the Medicean stars, in honor of the ruling Medici family. His negotiations were ultimately successful, and Galileo moved to Florence as chief mathematician and philosopher to the Grand Duke and holder of a sinecure professorship at Pisa. His daughters moved with him and were shortly placed in the convent of St. Matthew at Arcetri, near Florence. Vincenzo and his mother, Marina, were left behind in Venice. Once a courtier, Galileo entered into several debates on scientific topics. In 1612, he published a discourse on floating bodies, and in 1613, Letters on Sunspots, where he first openly expressed support for Copernican heliocentrism. In 1613-14, Galileo entered into discussions of Copernicanism through his student Benedetto Castelli, and wrote a letter to Castelli defending the doctrine from theological objections. Meanwhile, it had become known that Copernicanism was under scrutiny by church authorities. Galileo lectured and lobbied against its condemnation, expanding his letter to Castelli into the widely circulated letter to the Grand Duchess Christina in 1615 and traveling to Rome late that year. Nevertheless, in March 1616, Copernicus's On the Revolutions of the Heavenly Orbs was suspended, i.e., temporarily censored, pending correction, by the Congregation of the Index of Prohibited Books. Galileo himself was called to an audience with Cardinal Robert Bellarmine, a leading theologian and member of the Roman Inquisition, who admonished him not to teach or defend Copernican theory. In 1623, Galileo published the Assayer, which deals with the nature of comets and argues they are sublunary phenomena. This book includes some of Galileo's most famous methodological pronouncements, including the claim that the book of nature is written in the language of mathematics. It also contains passages suggestive of atomism, a heretical doctrine, for which the book was referred to the Inquisition, which dismissed the charge. Also in 1623, Maffeo Barberini, Galileo's supporter and friend, was elected Pope Urban VIII. Galileo felt empowered to begin work on his dialogue concerning the two chief world systems. The two systems are the Ptolemaic and Copernican, and the text clearly, though not explicitly, favors the latter. Printing was completed in Florence by February 1632. Shortly afterwards, the Inquisition banned its sale, and Galileo was ordered to Rome for trial. In June 1633, Galileo was convicted of vehement suspicion of heresy, and a sentence of imprisonment was immediately commuted to perpetual house arrest. In 1634, while Galileo was confined to his villa in Arcetri, his beloved eldest daughter died. Around this time, he began work on his final book, Discourses and Mathematical Demonstrations Concerning Two New Sciences, based on the mechanics he had developed early in his career. The manuscript was smuggled out of Italy and published in Holland by the Elseviers in 1638. Galileo died on January 8, 1642. Due to his condemnation, his burial place was obscure until he was reinterred in 1737. For detailed biographical material, the best and classic work dealing with Galileo's scientific achievements is Stillman Drake's Galileo at Work. More recently, J. L. Heilbronn has written a magnificent biography, Galileo, that touches on all the multiple facets of his life. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to this channel.